Hello, and thank you everyone for joining our webinar, Evolve Shop, Game-Changing Ways to Improve Your Fab Shop. Today, our VP of Product, Clay Freeman, will be walking us through the Evolve Shop product and showing us some ways that you can digitize your shop operations. If at any time today you have a question, please use the Q&A function and we will get to your questions towards the end of the webinar, or we will follow up with you after the webinar. This webinar is going to be recorded and we will be forwarding the recording to all registrants. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Clay Freeman. Clay, please take it away.
Thanks, Marina. I'm reporting live from the field today, or actually live from the shop. I'm out here setting up one of Rosaden's shop, but we're taking a break from the onboarding session to go through the webinar material. Before we get into the details on what has changed in shop and in Foresight over the last couple of months, I thought I would do a general overview, just spend 10 minutes to explain our overall strategy and where we're at. So many of you know us as an add-on on top of Revit to make it easier to create fabrication-ready mechanical, electrical, and plumbing models. We noticed a trend several years ago of VDC and pre-con getting more closely connected. And we thought that that was a good time for us to create a broader platform to not only serve the design space, but also expand into procurement, shop fabrication, and field installation. So we had a single platform for operations management that can connect all these things together. Now, to start that, we asked users what they wanted from that, and then unsurprisingly, we got quite a long list of things that people wanted to have, which we thought was great news. Lots of problems that needed to be solved. However, there were some constraints that they mentioned as well, and the time investment is a little bit of an exaggeration here, but not much. We really don't have time in this industry to shut down and retool or spend a lot of time figuring out complex systems, getting them configured, and training people and rolling them out. We have to be able to ingest new processes or new tools while we're getting work done. So we have very little tolerance for complexity, things that would take a long time to get running. We've tried to get it down to just a few hours for total setup time, and in many cases, 10 to 20 minutes for training. And of course, we also heard it's got to be comparatively cheap. It's not an industry where we have a lot of tolerance for a $3 million SAP or Oracle ERP deployment. We need to have something that is affordable, can be paid for as part of our project operational expenses or shop expenses. Now, in order to deal with those three constraints, the long list of requests, very, very quick configuration, very minimal training requirements, and a cheap system, we decided to come up with a stage plan, eat the elephant one bite at a time, if you will. And we worked with a lot of our lighthouse partners, so trade contractors that have closely partnered with us to define the priorities. They helped us develop the stages, and the low-hanging fruit was what we call the communication triangle, managing work requests as they go from pre-con to the field to the shop and all the communication that occurs there. That was the first thing that we wanted to tackle. And I'll talk more in a minute about some of the problems we were trying to address with that communications triangle suite of functionality. The second thing was actually routing and tracking the work through the shop. So providing better shop management, more transparency for the shop processes, more automation for those processes. And the third was to create a system where it was really easy to start standardizing a kit of parts. So things don't have to be planned over and over again. You can create some standardized content and get really efficient at building it and make it easy for the field team and the shop teams to work with that standardized content. These first three stages are done. We have these in production at multiple customers already. We were just onboarding another one, like I said, today. We're working on the next couple of stages, which is integrating it to a BOM that can be populated from Revit or from Bluebeam or from Excel. So we can take data from all these systems, munge it together to create a single source of truth for the entire project team, and then connect that into work requests and also into material requisitions. Additionally, we're working on better handling for custom assemblies. We can handle custom assemblies today, but it's a bit of a manual process. We're working on some automated options for how to do that as well. Spools, for example, would be a key one there. And we're gearing up for our next phase of work, which really gets us into delivery management and receiving. So all of these things are coming out from the next month to the next 3 months. The first 3 items on this list are already ready to deploy. We think by the time most accounts actually got comfortable with 1, 2, or 3, we'll have 4, 5, and 6 out the door as well. Of course, there's many things that we want to do that are after these 6, but these were our top 6 priorities to get rolled out. And pricing is $50 a user per month. Typically, each work cell, the project foreman out in the field and the shop foreman would have licenses. Takes about 15 minutes a week for them to achieve a payoff on that type of monthly cost for the system. So we think we've navigated those constraints pretty well and came up with a plan that allow us to deliver on everything that customers want from operations management over time in a system that you can get up and running in only a few hours and get rolled out to your team and in production on day 1. To talk about some of those first problems we were trying to address, we talked to a lot of shop foremen. They say they're getting 50 to 80 calls a day. That's a tremendous amount of distraction. So they're literally spending all day trying to deal with those phone calls. And those phone calls often create a change in plan. They have to update an Excel spreadsheet, or they have to send an email to notify somebody to do something differently than what was originally planned. They get another phone call and that email doesn't get finished, and it causes a drop ball that you suffer from over time. We heard a lot about a high burnout rate. We talked to several customers that said it's just hard for us to keep foremen because it's such a stressful job. And we talked to a lot of foremen that say, yeah, they're able to operate reasonably effectively today, but if they increased the offsite fab by 20%, which is what they're being asked quite often from their executive team and also from the GCs, that the wheels would come off the bus. And so it's just not a system that can scale the way most people are operating today. And for the field, it was a lack of transparency, a strong preference for things to be done on site because they were easy to track and easy for the field to manage, which is why they're making all those phone calls to check on the status. And then for the VDC/pre-con team to have a tighter integration to the work that they're doing, allow them to preload the work request for the field. Not required, but it's a thing that a lot of customers of ours are using the system to do. So these were some of the things that we were tackling for the first couple of stages of deployment, and we've got pretty good results with our pilot customers on these items so far. To do a really quick run through of the system, we'll just spend about 5 minutes for the people that haven't seen it already. Most of the webinar will focus on things we've changed in the last couple of months. But you see here, we've got a project open. We see all the work requests and the status for all the work requests from that project. We can create a new work request really easily, assign it to a facility, give it a need by date, give it a work request name, and save. We now have 4 different ways to create the work request. We can do type in items, just write in what you want, the quantity for how many you want. A second way would be to pull from your standard kit of parts from the parts catalog, search for what you want, type in the quantities for those, and add it to the system. The nice thing about the catalog is the bill of process is already in there. They're fully planned out. Now we've created that work request. We can see it's in a draft status. We can attach a markup. So you can do a Bluebeam markup, attach that. You can also hyperlink. If it's stored in Autodesk systems or Procore systems, you can attach the hyperlink to add more details about that work request and then submit it. Once it's been submitted, you see it's been submitted. You have an email to record that event. And if we jump over to the shop, now we're the shop foreman role. The shop person receives that. So they see that new work request that has just come in. It's in that submitted status. They can check out the details for what they're being asked to do. Okay, we've got 2 different items that were part of this. I can transfer it to a different facility. I can reject it, say there's missing information. Rejection will send it back to the field. So it'll go back to a draft status so the field can address the missing information and submit it again. Or we can accept it by hitting that approve button. That's updated the status again. The field has been notified, email was sent out, and we can see that the status is updated there in the interface. So that's the basics on how to create a work request and submit it from the field team to the shop. Again, 4 different ways to create the work request. Write in item, just type in what you want in the quantity, pull it from the catalog. Standardized kit of parts already has bill of process included as part of it. Attach a markup or attach a hyperlink to a drawing hosted in some other system. All 4 ways are supported today. Now, to get into planning those work requests, we can pull up that work request that has been approved, and we can see the parts catalog one there already has the steps that have to be executed in the shop to make that assembly. That's our bill of process. But this write-in one, of course, doesn't have a bill of process. So I can pull up my standard task list, and I can just drag and drop a strut cut, maybe a rod cut, and an assembly step for this trapeze. And I can set the predecessor relationship saying the strut cut and the rod cut have to be done first before I can assemble it. That's a manual process. Anytime you've done a manual process for something, you can save it to the catalog so you never have to do that again. So the system becomes more automated over time. Now that we have the bill of process, we can take those same tasks that we just added to the system, the strut cut and the rod cut, and we can attach drawings to those, our models, our CNC code, or any combination of the things. You can attach as many different things to each of these tasks as you want, and then the people out in the work cells in the shop that are actually executing the work, they'll be able to see those. Now that that has been planned out, it's now a work order. I can track it in the work order table there. I can also pull up a Kanban. I can change the priority of work orders just by dragging and dropping. That's going to change the priority for all the tasks that were part of that work order. Okay. Now there's all the details in the work order. If I'm happy that it's fully planned out, I can release it to fabrication. And now the shop foreman's job is done. We're on to the work cell teams. Here, the shop foreman can get an overview of where all the work cells are at. Work cell Kanban with all the tasks associated with all work cells, or the work cell teams themselves can load up their individual queues. So here's the cutting work cell. Here's the list of tasks that team needs to get done. If they pull up one of those tasks, we have the Autodesk Forge viewer. They can view the models, the drawings, or download the CNC code that is associated with that. They can start tracking the time. That will notify the field that this work order has been started. They can pause it, or they can complete the work, which will unblock the successor task. And again, update all the Kanbans, update the shop foreman, update the field team across the board. Here, I'll jump to the assembly work cell, and I can pull up another task. And just to show that we can attach models and they can view models. So if that was a spool or something else, you could either attach the drawing or the model or both to it for the work cell teams to be able to track that. So that's the real quick overview of 2 of those first few items. So the communication triangle connecting Precon. Precon has a design module. It comes with our electrical and mechanical products. Everybody gets access to that. They can create work requests themselves and leave them in a draft state for the field to execute later, or the field can create them, and then the shop receives them, plans them out, and then tracks the work as it goes through completion. We have another webinar where we walk through all these steps in much more detail, more slowly. So if you haven't seen the product before, that was a lightning fast overview. You can go back and watch the original webinar that actually walks us through that in a little bit more detail. But there is one other step I'd like to show first, and that is how to reuse the content, because of course you don't want to be manually planning those bill of processes for every assembly in every work request every time. You want to reuse the data that you've already created. And so if I go back to that work cell or that work request that we just executed, we manually added the bill of process to that trapeze, I can say, save it to my catalog, choose a folder for where we want that to be published, publish the item into the catalog, and now it's reusable. So from now on, when I create a work request, I can just drop it straight from the catalog and go from there. If I look at our catalog editor, we can review the part. We can look at the configuration options that are available for that. It is a configurator, not just a flat part. And we can pull up the bill of process here. We can change the bill of process, add more steps, add bill of material items, and fully plan out all the details for what we need to procure, what we need to, the steps that we need to perform as well to build this trapeze. So completely reusable content. Again, the concept is the system learns over time. Every time you plan out a bill of process manually, if you're going to see that thing again, you just save it to the catalog. So that's a quick walkthrough for what we have already today. So I know that was lightning fast, but I just wanted to provide some context because we do have some attendees today that haven't seen the system. To start talking about new functionality, things that have come out in the next or in the last couple of months are coming out this week. One of the first ones is we're just shipping a new version of electrical mechanical version 6.4, and that system has a publish function. And the publish function does several things. It'll take your drawings, and the goal is to send them to Foresight so they can be mapped to bill of process steps. But it doesn't just grab the sheet from Revit and send it. It contacts Foresight and has it create a document and document version. It asks for a version-specific QR code, inserts that QR code on the sheet, generates a PDF, and then automatically uploads it to the Foresight drawing register. So all that stuff is fully automated. In your sheet templates, you create a placeholder indicating where you want the QR code to go, and it'll automatically pop that onto the sheet and then upload it into the system. Now, with that data, it gives us a range of options for how you can consume this out in the shop. Here's a photo from Worth & Company, one of our customers up in Pennsylvania, and they've got monitors at each work cell, nicely organized work cell here. And you can see part of the system, the task details page, up on that monitor. So you can have a TV and a PC, or a widescreen monitor and a PC, or a tablet that you're just casting to, or just a PC on each one of those work cells. You can also have a tablet. So we have an Android and an iOS app. I'll be talking about those a little bit more in a minute. With a tablet, you can view the drawings just as you would on a monitor, just a slightly smaller format. We do test on low-end Android and iOS tablets, so $100 to $200 devices, not the top-end $1,000 iPads. It will work fine on the low-end devices. And we've just added support now with 6.4 for a phone app. So the phone app will work with paper drawings that have those QR codes on it, and you can scan the QR codes and it'll pull up the task that are linked to that sheet from the QR code and let people execute it from the phone. We'll look at that mobile app in just a minute as well. But all these first four were already in existence. We just added the phone support today, and you can mix and match your options. You can have some work cells that have a widescreen monitor and a computer. Some of them have a tablet. Some of them are still just using paper with QR codes and then scanning those. Quite a few new features for creating work requests. So that attachments by URL was added in the last couple of months. We've added the ability to adjust the need by date, which we didn't have the initial one that was based on customer requests. We've added the ability to create work requests from the design module. So all electrical and mechanical users now have access to that. And we've added both in product and email notifications when work request status values change. We've added new features for planning work requests as well. That saving to the parts catalog, that was a new feature from a month ago. The drawing register has been added, and we're adding more functionality into it right now. So editing those drawing IDs and names, Creating folders is coming up really soon. Mapping a drawing to the bill of process steps. That was new from 2 months ago as well. We've greatly improved the performance of PDF loading. That was really slow 3 months ago, but in the last couple of months, we've got that down to 1 second now for most PDFs. We've added support for models and model viewing, and we have the ability to edit and delete all the details in the work request, which was missing from the initial product. On the parts catalog side, as we talked a little bit about earlier, we have the ability to save the parts catalog. We can create items in the parts catalog. We have full support for adding a bill of process and bill of materials for all the assembly in the parts catalog. And we just added the ability to edit your category structure here. By the way, that catalog doesn't only use the categories to navigate to what you want. It has a Google type predictive search engine in it as well. So you can type any type of phrase, any of the attributes that describe the part, and it'll come up with the best hit ratios. So it's designed really for the field users to be able to find the products they want really fast and add it to the system. We don't want the field users looking at the monitor for 10 minutes trying to find things. It should be something that they can do in a few seconds and stay safe. Here's an example of the workflow inside of that editor. So here we've got an integrated bill of materials and bill of process. And by integrated, I mean that it has the steps, the tasks that need to be performed, and the materials that are required for each task. Having this integrated bill of materials and bill of process is a unique thing to our system, and it's something we'll be taking a lot more advantage of over the next few months. As we add receiving, we will indicate where things are stored when they're received. And so when the person pulls up this task, we can tell them exactly what materials they need to pull and where to pull those items from, where they're stored. And there's the delete function in the categories. So for shop, we continue to make improvements to the Kanban. We're adding additional data to the Kanban based on customer requests, more things that they want to see listed inside of these cards. The drag and drop functionality has recently been added and is not playing. Let's see. Nope, not going to play. Drag and drop to change the priority orders. If I drag one of these up to the top, it's going to automatically reprioritize all of the tasks for all the bill of processes inside of the assemblies that are part of that work order, and then update everything across the entire shop. So a lightning fast way to change priority orders when you get that rush request from the field team. We've had quite a few customers where the work requests and the work orders, they're getting a lot of them. So there's a large amount of data in the system. So we've added a powerful filter to filter down based on a need by date range or which project you want to see the data from. Easy way of filtering those Kanbans to get to just the details you want to have. And we're about to create, it was supposed to go out tonight. I think it's been delayed till next Thursday, but we're about to have the ability to launch the task details directly from the Kanban, so you don't have to go to the work cell queue itself. There's one of the filters, so we can go in, again, filter by date range, project name, status, whatever else you want to do. The mobile apps shipped just a couple of weeks ago. So again, Android and iOS, we've got the form factor for the phones, but also for tablets. Main difference being the tablet includes the viewer, so you can view the drawings directly from the tablet. The phone does not. It relies on scanning the QR code. But it does have that built-in ability to scan the QR code. You don't have to use the QR codes. You can just open up a work cell from the mobile app and start and complete tasks from there. But you can scan the QR code, and that'll pull up the linked or associated task directly from there. And then, of course, again, that tablet version has that viewer. For those of you watching, go ahead and scan this QR code from your phone, if you would. I promise you no viruses attached to that one. And this is another feature that doesn't even require you to be a user of Foresight or any of our products. So anybody with a phone can hit the QR codes from those sheets. And what you should be seeing is it'll tell you if that's the latest version of the sheet that has been published to the system or not. I can't tell you how many projects that I've been involved with where a problem occurred because we fabricated something or we installed something based on an outdated version of the sheet. Even without the app, you can scan that code and see the details and whether you have the latest sheet or not. So a nice feature. But of course, if you're a user and you have the app, you can scan it inside of the app and it will give you all of the tasks that are linked to that sheet. So you'll see this task list right here. You'll notice these are the 3 tasks associated with this drawing, and you're seeing down at the bottom the drawing status is up to date. That's what the app users will get, as opposed to anybody that just scans the QR code. So implementation, we've gone through quite a few of these, and we're generally able to get people running in half a day. And it doesn't take a half a day from everybody's time. Generally, we do a 30-minute briefing for everyone. We spend about an hour setting up the system. That's setting up the work cells and the task types that are required. 30 minutes to an hour for the initial setup on that. And then training project teams, training the shop foreman on how to do the planning and tracking. We need about 2 hours in total from the shop foreman. Everybody else, project foreman, project managers, work cell teams, takes about 20 minutes to train them, and they're off and running. We generally do weekly calls with the team just to address any questions that anybody has after that. So again, super fast to get this thing configured, get it out of production. That's really what we specialize in, is fast configuration, fast training, very little time required, and then $50 a user per month to make it a easily absorbable cost. So that summarizes our key points for today. If you're interested in trialing the product, please hit this QR code here. We'll come to your site, which is what I'm in the process of doing today out here with Rosenden, and help get you set up. There's no cost for that. And we'll train and mentor the team and then support the team after we leave with those weekly calls from there. But let's take some questions. Marina, do we have some?
Not at the moment, but let's leave that open just for a minute and let these folks ask any questions. And also, Clay, I can share in the chat the link to the video that you were talking about, the previous shop webinar.
Yes, please do. I know that was if you haven't seen it before, that was a very fast run through of the system. All right, any questions? The primary benefits we're hearing from customers is it's reducing the communication burden, so that shop foreman is getting time to not just answer the phone, but to actually spend more time planning and directing work, less need to micromanage the work cell teams because they're getting all the details that they need from that task details interface. The field teams are telling us that it's really simple. They were able to learn it in just a few minutes. They're producing their work requests from inside of the system now, and they like the ability to track and manage the work from there. That's what we're hearing from our initial customers.
And on our YouTube channel, we also have a video of the product being used live with Worth & Co. So you can see it in action. We have one question came in. It says, could you go over what the QR code functions feature is again?
Yes, absolutely. And so there's 2 behaviors there. If you're not a user of the system, you're not a customer, just anybody with a phone that scans the QR code, that's going to pull up, and I'll throw this back up. You'll see it if you hit it with your phone right now. It's just going to pull up and tell you if that's the most current drawing or not. Now, if you're actually a user of the system and you're using our app to scan the QR code, let's go back to Revit. The new 6.4 of our Revit products is automatically adding a version specific QR code to the sheet. If you publish the sheet again, it will automatically erase that QR code and add a new one to it, so we can tag it as a new version of the sheet. And if you scan that QR code from our app, it will show you the list of bill of process tasks that are associated with it. These are the things that are part of the assembly bill of process that's assigned to work cells. It's saying that these 3 tasks are linked to this sheet. If you want to start one, click on it. This interface will pop up and I can start, pause, or set that task to complete. That will update the entire rest of the system. So it's digitally connected, paper-based process. The team is still using paper out in the shop, but through use of a tablet or through a phone, and just by scanning the QR code, they're able to easily, with pretty much no training at all, easily update the status and track the times for these things. By the way, time tracking, we are recording the time it takes to do all these tasks. We're recording the time that is spent in total for a work order. We're recording the time per assembly. So if you're doing 40 cuts in 40 minutes, we're tracking that you're spending 1 minute a cut on that. We're embedding a reporting engine into the system now, so you'll be able to directly generate reports from inside the system. But even without that, we are copying all of your completion data over to a data lake that you can connect to with Power BI. So if you want to know how much time you spend doing a particular type of task on average in a month to justify a new equipment purchase, for example, you could use Power BI to analyze that. If you want to start better planning and forecasting work, you can look at the average durations it's taking you to do the work, and all that is accessible. It will be accessible via the reporting engine for inside the product, but also through Power BI connections to our data lake.
Thanks, Clay. Another question here. Will there eventually be a feature that can pull spools from Revit and make them a work order that would integrate with a push-pull saw?
Yes. So thanks for asking that. That I talked a little bit earlier about custom assemblies. It was item number 5 on the list of 6. You can handle custom assemblies now, but we're not automatically figuring out the bill of process for a spool, for example. And so one of the primary things the development team, both the Revit team and the Foresight team, is working on right now is connecting those spools and packages into the system, so we can automatically process a spool, figure out its bill of process, and then connect it to the machines. So whether that's a connection like directly to Tiger Stop, or it's a connection to pipe server or to cam duct, that's a few of them that we're working on. If you've got some other machinery or things that you'd like for us to connect to, other software that's capable of creating CNC code to directly drive a machine, please let me know, and we'll get that on our list as well. These are all things that I expect to see in the next few months.
Fantastic, Clay. And while I get the next question up, why don't you go back to that QR code just to make sure if anybody would like to reach out to us, they can grab
Oh,
that.
yes, the one on the end.
So one of the next question, one of the advantages of this would be a field order for a special piece like a transition for an air handler unit, just trying to clarify and understand the workflow design.
Yes. So for something like that, what we would expect is the user, for a piece like that, you'd probably sketch out what you wanted and then attach that sketch to the work request and send it off from there. The shop team would figure out the bill of process for that and then execute the work from there. But normally that would be a sketch and an attachment.
Great. And then another follow-up question on the QR codes. Do you have any intent to add more QR codes in the future to help the installers in the field? Maybe one that directs to spool sheets?
I don't think we found something we don't want to slap a QR code on.
Yeah.
We created a generalized QR code service that's part of the Foresight Foundation services. And this drawing register was just the first one to use it. We want to be linking drawings to locations and printing out location-specific QR codes so you can scan, like you can put a QR code on a door frame, scan that QR code and get a list of all the drawings for that location and all the field tasks associated with that location. Kitting of parts for delivery will all be QR coded, so receiving can scan them in from them. So yeah, for field tasks, for receiving purposes, kitting purposes, location-specific QR codes, all those things are going to get QR codes over the next few months.
Great. Thank you so much, Clay. Okay, last questions for calls. Okay, great. We got another one. How long does it take to implement and start seeing benefit for my shop? Do we need to connect to BIM and Field in order for this tool to work?
Okay, multi-part question. So let me go back to this previous slide. We have customers that have gone in production and started getting benefits by the afternoon of day one. I would say quite often we go through a day, everybody learns how to use it, and then we have a weekly call, we answer the questions, and then in a couple of weeks, we got everybody up to speed. So I'd say a third of our deployments, we got up and running and in production in that first afternoon. People started getting benefits immediately. Probably 2/3, we got up and running, but people got distracted. They had to run back and put out some fires, and it ended up taking 2 weeks to really get everybody on board with the system and getting benefits. That's the range of time that we're seeing.
That is exciting stuff. All right. Any more questions from our audience? Well, great. Thank you so much, everyone, again, for your time today. We'll be following up with that recording. And I will just leave this QR code up for one more minute before I close out the webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Let me also thank you for participating, and thanks for asking the questions, and we look forward to your feedback and requests.